All right. Hello, everyone. This is Amity, and I'm here with the lovely Yasmina Ramzy. And I'm so excited to have this conversation with her today. So we're just going to dive right in. And Yasmina, can you tell us how you got started into dancing and how you kind of came about your dance career?
Well, it depends on where you want to start along the timeline. But I was involved in dance since like about age 7. I used to watch TV shows, and in those days it was the 60s, so they had go-go dancing. So with the white boots and the pink hot pants. And I would watch shows like that and country and western. I remember anyway, the next day, as soon as I saw some dancing on TV, the next day I'd round up the girls on the street and make them do the dance, choreograph sort of, on them. Eventually, that led to we eventually moved to Toronto. We were living in Montreal, and then I don't know if you know if you're Canadian, you know about the FLQ. Was it a situation? So half of Montreal moved to Toronto, and when I was 11 here in Toronto, my grandmother from England took me to see hair. My grandmother was very she loved to dance. She won dance competitions. She was very flamboyant and bigger than life. So she was taking her eldest granddaughter to see hair, which at that time was very controversial and big because they were naked and they were hippies and all kinds of things like that. So to take a 10 or 11-year-old to see hair was, not normal. Anyway, I saw it and I saw the naked people and I loved it. Naked people's like, yeah, whatever, but it was the energy and the songs about freedom and about love and peace, and I just like fell in love with the show. It meant everything to me, and I think it's like the launching pad of everything I've done ever since that. I was obsessed. Went home again, rounded up all the girls on my street, including my sister. But this time I was going to put on a real production. So I was going to put, because my dad he had the album, the LP for hair. So in our backyard, he pumped out the music from the dining room into the backyard. We had chairs all lined up. We had a whole proper theater, and we put on my version of hair. We didn't get naked, but we went under the covers, and when we came out, we were just like changed or transformed or something. I don't know what I did. Anyway, we have pictures of it and stuff. But immediately after that, I went to my room, and like young kids always do, you immediately find something else to get absorbed into. Like, okay, I did that. Now I'm going to go do this. So I was in my room playing some other game, completely forgot what I'd done 20 minutes ago, that I had like worked on all week. And my mom knocked on the door, and there was a man with her. And she said, this is so and so. He would like to talk to you. And so he sat down and he started saying, where did you get this idea? How did you do this? Like, because he was kind of, I guess, confounded how an 11-year-old girl produced hair. Anyway, so he's like, he wanted to know what made me tick. But what I took from that, my mother was very proud, but what I took from it was I had caused some kind of attention, like too much attention, like what I did, like it wasn't normal or something like that. So I stopped. I never choreographed again. I never put on another show again. I never danced. I started taking, by that point, my parents had realized she's a dancer. So they enrolled me in ballet. And so I continued to take my dance classes and my ballet classes. But as soon as I became of an age of around 14 or so, that there was talk about would I be a prima ballerina or a chorus and performing and all this stuff. And I'm like, performing? I'm out of here. And the same thing happened with guitar. I played classical guitar. As soon as I got to like grade 8, so my teacher was wanting me to perform. I'm like, nah, stopping guitar. So everything about performing or putting on, I was like completely against it and was never, ever going to set my foot on a stage ever again. Then, because of that's a long story how I got into it, but I started studying all kinds of different kinds of mysticism, which included ancient Egyptian mysticism. And because of that, somebody told us one day you have to go check out this restaurant called Cleopatra. They have Egyptian entertainment. So we went there. The minute I walked in, live music, my hair all stood up, it was Qanun, violin, and dumbek, and singer. And that's all, just 3 guys shoved in the closet pretty much in the corner. The stage was in the middle. First dancer came on stage. I thought it was the stupidest thing I'd ever seen. And then a second dancer came on stage and she was mesmerizing. She was really good. And she later actually danced in Egypt.
Mm.
And I was like, wow. And for me, for 7 years before that, I had been studying about goddesses and Isis of Egypt and all these things. So for me, the mother of the universe had come to life in front, five inches away from me. So I was obsessed. Next day, I went to Sam the Record Man. In those days, it was all LPs, and I bought any album that had a picture of a belly dancer on it. I went home, locked myself in a room for about 2 weeks. I don't know what I did in that room, but I just kept playing that music and trying to, I guess, emulate that dancer that I'd seen. Eventually, one thing led to another. I managed to sign up for classes with her, which didn't last too long because I guess while I'd been practicing the room, I had some ear for the music or something like that. Anyway, she had a party in her studio and there were some live musicians there. And all her other dancers had been taking classes for a long time. And I hadn't. I had like a couple of classes. And my husband at the time made me a costume. He was good at making things. And no, I don't even think I had a costume. That was another thing. Yeah. Anyway, they had the party. Everybody else had their choreographies, got up and danced. I didn't have anything. So I got up and improvised with the band. And so that was my first performance improvising in a living room, not a show.
Mm.
And anyway, one thing led to another. Said come and perform in this nightclub called Cleopatra. And it was where I walked in and saw the musicians the first time. So same nightclub. And I didn't want to perform, never wanted to be on stage, but I really loved this music and dance. Wasn't going to give that up. But I thought, you know what? I'm 20 years old. I'm shy all my life. I hate being shy. Actually, I'm shy ever since I put on hair. Before hair, I was never shy. Shy, and I don't want to be shy for the rest of my life. So I'm going to do this one time. That's when my husband made the costume. I'm going to do this one time. I'm going to get on stage and perform, and it'll be like ripping off a band aid. I'll never be shy ever again, and I'll never perform ever again. Famous last words. So I got up on stage and performed. The entire show, I looked at my feet. I never looked at the audience once. But I don't know, I guess, first of all, I had an ear for the music. I had been playing classical guitar for many years. There was something in classical guitar. My guitar teacher also played flamenco. When I walked into that nightclub and I heard the music, I knew this is the music I've been looking for when I was playing my guitar. So it was like a certain sound that just hit me like that's what I've been wanting to play. And so I guess I had a feeling already for the music. So the Arabs, for some reason, that in combination with my shyness, that I looked at my feet the whole time, they thought it was kind of endearing because they were used to like girls, you know, very lots of bravado and stuff like that. I was like the complete opposite. So, I think they found it endearing. So I had kind of like this whole community start to mentor me, you
Mhm.
know, invite me to their living rooms, watch videos, and I was very lucky in that sense. So then the rest is history. Then, but actually, no, it's not completely true. Then, shortly after that, um, well, then the teacher she didn't like me because I was getting jobs and stuff. I was a horrible dancer, but it's a bit more complicated than that. There was a big misunderstanding. She told me, "You don't dance in, don't leave me in my nightclub as my warm-up act. Always stay here with me." So I promised her, and I did that 100%. But another club said, "Okay, you dance with her Wednesday to Saturday. Come and dance here Monday, Tuesday." And I thought, oh, make everybody happy. That was the wrong thing to do. So I was like excommunicated. And then more things led to another. Other people really started getting bullied a lot, and even threatened physically once with a big cane stick thing, not the bamboo cane like a real one.
Mm.
And the girls in those days were not. Some of them were stripping at the time as well, or had been strippers. So they were tough girls, some of them. And I just irritated everybody, because I wasn't even good. But anyway, so I said, okay, I don't want to bother anybody. I'll quit, and I quit. And then Ida Noor came to town, And Ida is 1982 now. So Ida Noor came to town and I wanted to see her perform. So I went to see her perform in the nightclub, the last nightclub I had performed in. And I was like, wow. So I went to her hotel room after the show, like 2 o'clock in the morning or something. And I asked, can I come back and take classes from you and all this? She didn't speak any English or anything like that. But all the Egyptians around in the hotel room thought, and they just thought, oh, this is adorable. Little Yasmina is going to so tall, you know? And anyway, so the next day I went back to every day that week. I went back to her hotel room and learned from her. She in the mirror, there's a slim mirror in the hotel. We would stand in front of it. I just felt her beside me, you know. And she would just, you know, that's all that was, you know, that's the only instruction I got. I did learn to shimmy from her. I learned certain things. And she gave me some of her costumes, things like that. And then, because she just thought, who is this little blonde girl that wants to learn my dance? She never met a foreigner who wants to learn her dance before. And so then I told her the story about, she said, oh, you know, you can do this and this. I said, well, actually, I quit. I don't dance anymore. You know, I just love the dance. I want to learn it, but I don't want to perform it. She looked at me like I'm crazy. And then, and then she said, and I said, well, you know, people get mad at me, blah, blah, blah. So she said, no. She's like, one day you're going to be better than all of them.
Uh-huh.
Just keep dancing. Don't stop. This week I was back dancing. And then again, the rest is history.
And you performed in how many different countries?
uh, just three. Four. No, okay, no, sorry. A lot more than that. Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Egypt, Greece. Well, I performed in like all the other, like Hong Kong and Vienna and England and, you know, all the Europeans, all those two as well. And then obviously United States and Canada and Mexico. And so I don't know, off count, I don't know how many. I know I've taught and performed in well over 70 cities by now. And, but of Arabic countries, one, two, three, four.
Right.
Greece was kind of like Arabs because I worked for Arabs
Mm.
for about a month, 3 months, something like that.
But you've
It
got,
was a Lebanese nightclub, Lebanese hotel.
and what made you start either the studio or the performing group? Like what part of that after you created your own dance career made you go to that level?
Few factors. One, I had been performing in the Middle East. Okay, the school was out of frustration because I learned from Arabs and I had been performing only for Arabs.
Mhm.
And I actually refused to perform for Canadians because I didn't like how they viewed me, you know?
Mm.
I knew that they didn't understand what I was doing, so I refused to perform for Canadians. The first time I ever performed for Canadians was later when I did theater. I had a live band and then a theatrical. Obviously, the audience was half Canadian. But at a party, no way. And why was I telling you that? Oh, yes. So part of it was the frustration of trying to educate the people here in my world in Toronto, Canada. How can I live here and people not understand what I do? They keep thinking I'm a stripper or something, you know, and I get frustrated by that. So I'm going to open a school to show it's a very official dance, etc., you know. And I did certain marketing things on purpose at the time. I opened a school in the most high class area in Toronto. It's called Yorkville. It's where all the Yves Saint Laurent and Cartier and Louis
Mm.
Vuitton, all the designer, the high and various, all Mercedes and Jaguars, and that's where I opened my studio. Again, to assert the fact that it's a classy, high-end art, you know? So that was the reason for this school. Then, then the school, it was on and off. It didn't really become financially successful till like second version of it. And then it became so big too fast. I didn't know how to, I had a staff of 11 and I didn't know what to do. But in the beginning, in order to pay the rent, I went back to the Middle East for like a month or two to earn money to come back to my school. But on one of those times, I started to feel lonely, you know, and I thought, okay, I want to have a group come with me. And one time, actually early on, before so getting some stories mixed up, but I had a group come with me, 3 dancers. There were 4 of us. We called the Canadan band. They left out the I in Canadian, so we called the Canadan band. And we performed 6 weeks in Syria and 6 weeks in Jordan. And so that was kind of nice because I could like spend the day at the pool with them and stuff like that. So I decided in Canada I was going to create a company. But really, the initial in the company, when I go back to the Middle East or I tour, I'm going to have a company with me. I won't be so lonely. But the real impetus for starting the company was again along the lines of educating people that this is art, the same as ballet, because I've been brought up on ballet my whole life. I wanted to be viewed the same as ballet. I didn't understand why it wasn't, you know? Mm-hmm. And so everything I did was for that purpose. And then the company was like, well, if we're on the same stages performing in the same way that the National Ballet of Canada is, how can they not accept us as art? Yeah. So that's why I started the company. Partially out of loneliness, mostly out of education.
Great. Now, out of all of those things and everything that you've done so far to this date, do you have any favorite dance memories that really stick out?
Dance what?
Memories? Like your favorite dance memories, favorite dance moments?
Even dance memories. Oh, yes. Okay. So my 2 most favorite are behind the scenes. My most favorite that is my heart forever is the moments before my show in Damascus. Damascus, I had the best musicians. They're the musicians who play with Sabah Fakhri. So they're incredible. And I usually had a 16-piece band behind me with conductor. And, it's incredible. Anyway, the hallway that goes behind the nightclub, where like one side's the kitchen, the waiters go across this hallway, and the other side's the nightclub. If the wall is like this, on this side of the wall is the band and the stage and the people, and then there's the hallway. And there's like a little cubby hole where I can get out of the way of everybody, put my back against the wall that all the musicians are. No one can see me except the waiters walking by all the time. Mm. And I would go at least a half an hour before I had to be on stage and just stand there with my back against the wall. You could hear the music loud everywhere, but the vibrations as well. And my logical reasoning is I wanted to connect with the band before I went on stage, which was true. But also it was just utter beauty. I don't know how other soul fulfilling just fulfilled my soul more than being on stage, more than anything, was that half hour where I just stood there with my back against the wall. And the owner of the hotel, who was very good friends with President Al-Assad, that's the whole story. Sometimes he'd walk by and he'd see me. He's like, what's this girl doing here? Because there's like a green room, right, for the artists. And plus my hotel room is just down the hall. Why I'm not waiting in my hotel room or the green room like every normal artist would. No, I'm standing in the hall with the waiters going by me all the time. He's like, what's wrong with her, this weird Canadian? But he loved me, We had a great relationship. But anyway, that's my most precious moment. Mm-hmm. My second most precious moments are similar, but it's when I'm with my company and orchestra in the theater, and it's the days before the performance when we're teching, when it's quiet and I'm doing the lighting design, things like that. The music has to, when the music does their tech as well, sound check. Even sound check is a day, and each day is something. The lighting levels, the etc., and until it all comes together with the first dress rehearsal. I love all that moment because it's like you're creating magic. Maybe like how a cook loves to cook a meal, Okay, I choreographed it years or months ago, but now I get to stir the ingredients and put it on the fire. I've done all the prep work, and it's starting to come alive, By the time the audience is in and watching it, I'm bored. I'm on to the next thing. So that prep stuff before, I just love because the theater is big and cavernous. So just one voice of me talking or something echoes everywhere. And it's just me, the lighting designer, the stage manager, the assistant stage manager, musicians or certain dancers or light walkers or whatever, few people each time, and then eventually the whole thing comes together. I love that's my other most precious time. One other little highlight of all my shows was the Sony Centre in Toronto. It's a 3,500 seat theatre where the National Ballet of Canada, where when I was a girl, I would go see Swan Lake, the Nutcracker, etc. So when we were on that stage, and I danced a Hoa Sahay with my musicians. I mean, my whole company performed Ayun and all kinds of stuff. We performed like about 45-minute show. And to be on that stage was everything because it meant I'd done it full circle. And I even said that night, I could die tonight and I'll be happy. I've done everything I ever wanted to do. That's it. That's my favorite things.
I know for me personally, I love dancing with live music and like tiny little hallways, theaters or restaurants, and I also love performing on a big stage. Would you say that your favorite performance or favorite venue is the big stage, or do you have a
No.
preference?
I've come to realize in my old age, I've never actually liked performing. I don't. I mean, there was the whole, shyness as well. But I never been a natural ham. And but when I'm in a situation in a nightclub where the music is good, the musicians are like my family. Half of the audience is like my family, and we got a thing happening. That's a very delightful moment. In the theater, the only reason why I ever went on stage in the theater was so that the dancers could have time to change their costume. So I would do a solo. Either the band would play music or I would do a solo. But also in the beginning of the company, nobody knew. Here's another thing. When I started the company, the Arabs were like, what do you mean I'm going to watch dance in a theater with no food? And a group of girls dance? and a group of girls, like, how does a group do belly dance together? It's impossible. It's a solo dance form, right? So nobody understood what was going on. And so no one's going to buy tickets. And at that time, my only audience was Arabs. So I had to be on stage in order to draw them to come, you know, and the musicians drew them as well. And then slowly over the years, in the beginning it was mostly me with a few group. And then it became to the last show, me on for 2 minutes, everything else is ensemble. So it evolved into everybody knew the company and less about me.
Mm, okay. What would you say, or who, either what could be musicians, could be performers, could be other dancers, but who are the biggest influences in creating your own dance style, whether it be your own solo, your company, anything?
When it comes to my dance, how follow the music and how technique is particularly. Technique, mostly I studied Suherzaki, not with her. I studied her videos, hours and hours and hours. And then for like showmanship was Nagokwad, obviously.
Mm,
And when I saw Mona Saeed for the first time was when I realized that emotion was more important than anything,
mm,
and that you didn't even have to move as long as you felt it. That I learned from her. And Fifi Abdo, I mean, the melody, the I learned from her. And Dina, I mean, I'm still learning from her, but Dina really hit home how you can be your own artist and unique, and how do you say, not follow any trend,
mm,
make your own path. I learned that from her. Surazaki, oh, I didn't know her, obviously, this is my teacher. She's the only flesh and blood Arab teacher I had. I mean, up until when I started taking tours to Egypt, then, or I brought Egyptian teachers to teach here in
mm,
Canada, then Camelia, Randakamo, Dina, etc. Nagofad, Fifi Abdulmona Saidin. Okay, I see them all. But the other half of my career as a choreographer, my all-time favorite choreographer is Alexander Ekman.
mm,
And next to him is my mentor, Robert de Rosier. And before I found Alexander Ekman, I was following Jiri Killian. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I don't know. And I was following a lot of him on YouTube. But once I found Alexander Ekman, then I was very lucky to see his choreography done on the Joffrey Ballet in Chicago several times, in New York, in Toronto, wherever. If I could fly and wherever I would go, I will go to see an Alexander Ekman choreography anywhere if I can afford it. Yeah. So I think he's brilliant. And I wrote him once and I begged him if I could please be a fly on the wall or be whatever you call apprentice, or like, can I come and I just want to watch you work and be with you, you know? But he never wrote back. I told him I'd pay him anything, I'd get a grant or whatever, but he never wrote back. But Robert de Rosier, he's Canadian and he's mentored me in many ways. And he did. He brought me to, he was choreographing on a ballet company in Canada, and he brought me to the rehearsals. And it was fascinating because you see, I was a choreographer and I choreographed for my company, but I never was in a company. I was never a dancer in a company. I didn't know really how to do it. I made it up as I went along. And to work with Robert later on, I'm like, oh, so that's how it's done properly. One of the biggest mind-blowing things happened one day. He was choreographing on a duet. Actually, he was just polishing by this point. I went in and watched, and then he drove me home afterwards. And I said, and he was frustrated. He was like, oh, this is so difficult to work with this duet because originally it was another man with this woman. And they switched out the male dancer for another male dancer. He said, but I created the choreography based on the first male dancer. Mm-hmm. You know, you work with the energies of the dancers when you create choreography. So he was very frustrated to have to put this choreography that wasn't meant for this male dancer onto him, or to have to recalibrate everything. And I'm like, well, why did they switch out the dancer? Like, why did they change the dancer midstream? And he goes, oh, because he was being an asshole. And so they fired him. And I'm like, you can do that? being, well, you can fire them. Started looking at my company a little different after this. I still should have fired many more people for being an asshole earlier, but it just was, it really showed me in the professional world, you know, as belly dancers, we don't, I've tried, but I still don't, we don't take ourselves seriously enough, or respect ourselves, or respect our art form enough to do something like, you guy male dancer, you're being an idiot, you're being an asshole, you're out, there's another one waiting in the wings to take your place. And the reason is for that, because when I started my company, I trained them all from scratch. Now I have girls coming from Brazil, from Argentina, from France, and they're ready made, you know? So now I can say, leave, I don't want you in, there's another girl waiting in the wings. But it wasn't always the case, you know? So we kind of put up with a lot of things, both from our audiences, from our people who hire us, from our dancers, from our students, that we really shouldn't be putting up with if we think of it in the name of the art form rather than us personally. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's something that I struggle with personally. And not only that, like, things are changing. Like, I was part of a last generation of live music dancers, and now there's less and less live music. So with that, everything's changed.
Oh, things have changed. Yes,
Yeah.
a lot. And it's great to change with the times and find new and creative avenues. But sometimes, as I'm finding when you get to your last questions, when a lot of what gave you the joy has gone on and been surpassed by other things, which are beautiful and interesting as well, but they just don't do it for you, maybe it's time to bow out a little bit.
Something different. Yeah. Yeah. And I think, going into the next question is, what kind of advice would you give to current students, to aspiring professionals? Like, what would it be? And does it come from something that you wish you had changed, or something that is changing in the art form itself?
Okay, when you send me that question, it wasn't that detailed.
Yeah, and we can
I'll
we can
see
take
what
it
I
from
wrote,
different.
and then I'll get into your details after.
Okay.
But I'll see what I wrote. Let me see. After just saying we don't take ourselves seriously enough, I said do not take it too seriously. But what I mean is we don't take the art form seriously enough. We need to not take ourselves so seriously. And I think this age of social media and selfies has inverted that dynamic to the point where people are taking themselves more seriously than the art form to a certain extent. I mean, that's often been the case, not just now, but I think it's been exasperated by this social media thing, you know?
Mhm.
Anyway, if you're not having fun, stop and recalibrate. Joy is in the creation of art. Do not be sideswiped by the trappings of showbiz. And I often talk about that and say things like that, and the younger students listen. I know it goes in one ear and out the other, but I can't emphasize it enough that you're wasting your time, you're wasting your heart, your energy by focusing on the new fad, flashy costume, showbiz, getting a gig. My dancers, they want to get gigs. And I'm like, do you really know what, like, do you really want to dance at somebody's birthday party in their living room to a bad sound system where they don't even understand what you're doing? Like, do you really, you know? Or do you want to be in Egypt dancing on to some DJ on a bar? Like, you know, do you really think about it? But anyway, they do, and I help them where I can. But anyway, but I believe that really the real joy you're going to get is getting deeper into the art aspect or creating yourself or for what. And I know they think, okay, I don't have a venue. We'll make a venue. I made all my venues. And maybe it's the backyard. It doesn't matter. But as long as you feel like you're creating art, or maybe you find some musicians to work with, or whatever that inspires you rather than just getting a gig. Most important is to be a good person than to be a good dancer. And again, this is another one where I know goes in one ear and out the other ear because I need to be a good dancer. From a very selfish point of view, I'll tell you why this is a good idea. It's a good idea to be you'll be a happier person in the end, you know, than if you can do a hip kick upside down. You'll be a happier person if you're generally, you know, go from the heart. But I'll tell you something. I got all those opportunities with the Arabs because I was nice. And because I was nice, I got all the gigs. And I got all the gigs, I became a good dancer.
Mm.
And I became not just any good dancer, I became a dancer with a resume that, you know, far excels most belly dancer resumes. And that was not because I danced well. I danced well in the end, sort of. And even then, I don't really think I'm a very good dancer. But I got it because I was just nice. I was sweet. I was kind. I didn't threaten anybody. I didn't, you know, all these things, right?
Mm.
And the same thing happens. Also, a lot of Arabs have been called dialess. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but I think it's a kind of an honesty or something like that. People call me egoless. You can't say that about yourself. I'm egoless. Very egotistical to say that. But it's been something that's said to me a lot is the reason why they like me or hire me or whatever, you know? So I can't emphasize enough that if you're honest and you're yourself and you're just a nice person, you may end up further down the finish line than the other person who's grabbing and jumping on, you know, trying to get opportunities they think they're going to get somewhere.
Mm.
Like everybody's asking, what are the steps you take? Just just try to be a good dancer, but more important, be a nice person. But it goes again for teaching. Not so much be a nice person. Well, you got to be a nice person, but whatever. Yeah, I got my teaching gigs because I actually truly cared about the student and how she could evolve to be her own dancer. I wasn't laying, I've never wanted to like lay stuff on students. Even my professional company, everybody can tell they're in my company. And when they dance, they're synced. But if they ever do a solo, you would never know they're in the same company or taught by the same teacher. They're all very vastly different. So I don't cookie cutter students. And I go with them, with what they have to offer, and I try to bring it out.
Mm.
As opposed to, I want to be a teacher, I'm going to charge this much money, this is what I'm teaching you. You know, I actually really love growing dancers. Like some people like growing a garden, I love growing dancers. It's beautiful. And for that reason, oh yeah, another thing, people think, oh, I can be a teacher and I'll be a popular teacher if I teach the new fad.
Mm.
I don't know what's the latest one I heard. Something spinning the stick on your head. Spinning the stick on your head. This doesn't make you a Saidi dancer. It makes you doing a trick.
Mhm.
Saidi dancer, you just got to feel the music and have a few moves. Then you can dance Saidi. You want to add the spinning the stick on your head, fine, but it doesn't make you a better Saidi dancer or not. It just makes you know tricks. So I've never been about teaching the tricks or the fads or anything like that. I throw them in for my company when they're performing now and then because it's showbiz, but I don't teach it. I got all the opportunities in mainstream dance, meaning in the main contemporary ballet from the arts councils. I got grants, etc., because I was creating art. And there's no shortcut or tricks to creating art. You either bare your soul or not.
Mhm.
End of story. So that's the, what do you say, advice if you want to be in the arts world. Arts art. And doesn't matter what it is. My favorite story for that is Mahmoud Reda when he was here and April Rose performed. And we had 150 acts performing over 4 or 5 days. And she came on in a man's oversized suit and danced to jazz music or soul music. I don't know, something from her fusion. April Rose is a fusion dancer, I think. Nothing like Egyptian dance. Oh, that was Mahmoud's Reda's favorite dance, and mine as well. Still to this day, I rave about it. I mean, everybody was amazing, but that's the one we went out that night for dinner afterwards, and that's all we could talk about was April Rose, April Rose. And she was anything but an Egyptian dancer, but she created art,
Mm.
And when you bare your soul and you create art, everybody notices. Alexander Ekman will notice. Like everyone will know, and uh, you'll be invited into the club, sort of thing. You know what I mean? But there's no shortcut to it. You either do it or you don't. So the lesson I've learned recently or over the years was being banged into me several times. I'm starting to hear it now. Well, one was a long time ago. One of the drummers I used to work for many years, Suleiman, dear friend. And I was complaining one day to him, why does everybody copy me? Because even my students would say, oh, look, Yasmina did this thing in choreography. She goes, now all the Southern Ontario is a province where I live, all the groups are doing the same thing in their choreographies. And I'm like, I used to get frustrated. Why did they copy me? And these same people who copy me are people who like pretend I don't exist in a way. And he goes, why do you care? What does it bother to you? By the time they're copying, you're already onto something else. And then I'm like, oh yeah. Because I used to think they were taking something away from me. And then when he put it that way, I realized, actually, it's a compliment. People say that all the time. It's a compliment when people copy you, but it didn't really hit me. And then I went, oh, okay, copy away. Not a problem. Here, go ahead. And actually, it's a good thing. Please copy me because it'll force me to push myself and challenge myself for something new, something further, because I
Mhm.
don't like to be repeated.
Mhm.
But the other one, the hard truth that really has made me, and I'm sure you and all the dancers and heads of companies or professional solo dancers who call me up at 2 o'clock in the morning crying.
I've never done that
And
with you.
yes, that's who you did. Studio within 5 minutes of meeting you. A lot because people see I have this company, they think, oh, she's done so much. So as soon as they meet me, they like, stop.
Yep, that was me.
I have my own crying things, and I can give all you guys advice, but not that I ever listen to. It's really starting to sink in this year more than ever. And that is those bullies in 1981 or the people along the road. And I realize all of the detractors, the people who spread the lies and rumors, like I have a few that go on every few years, they go on a campaign to like discredit me. And then I'm always fascinated by the people who repeat these lies, and they've never met me. I don't know them from a hole in the wall.
Mhm.
And yet they're out there telling this gossip about me that isn't even true. What? make somebody do that who's never even met me? You know, and why would somebody in the first place do it? And, you know, I get told by my friends, oh, it's jealousy, don't worry about it. That's hard to stomach. It's hard to, why? You know, even when I first started dancing in the nightclubs as a solo, crazy rumors going around. I was sleeping with everybody. I blah, blah, went on and on. And I was crying. And one of the musicians, I said, you know, why are they talking about me like this? He goes, Yasmina, as long as they're talking. He says, when they stop talking is when you need to worry. Said that to me in like 1981 or two. I wish I had really listened to him because now it's making sense. Mm. And that if somebody's going to take the time out of their day to make a campaign to take me down and discredit me, they must think I'm really something, a threat. And I didn't really want to be a threat to anybody, but it does go to show that I must be doing something right, you know, because if I wasn't doing anything, nobody would even notice me. So it hurts a lot, but it's finally starting to sink in this year that actually I'm turning all that jealousy, all that bad energy towards me. And I'm realizing the people who don't know me, who repeat that stuff, I could never figure that one out. And then I realized, they don't know me, but they know my name, my image, my YouTube videos, my this, and this intimidates them. So it's in their best interest or favor, or they would like to take me down as well. They've never met me, but I'm irritating to be in the way. And some have even said straight to my face, like, you keep raising the bar and we can never friggin' get there. It's irritating. And so before I would go, oh no, I don't do that. I don't mean to do that. I don't want to hurt you. No, I don't want to. And I'm like, no, excuse my language. I fucking do raise the bar all the time. And for the first time, I'm starting to feel proud about it and go, thank you, and I'm sorry, and you're welcome. All at the same time.
Good.
Yeah, so that's the big lesson that was very hard for me to learn, but I'm starting to come to terms with this year, and it's causing me to completely transform my trajectory of what I want to do in the future.
Good. I'm really excited to hear what that is. Just a couple more questions, and we can get into that kind of discussion. But are there any specific musicians and music that just lights up your soul?
My favorite musicians or music to dance for. Oh, music to dance to everything. It depends on what mood you're in that day. But my favorite musicians were the Syrian ones in Syria, obviously. They're each a master. And I worked with, I mean, Bassam here is amazing, and worked with one or two musicians, maybe in North America, Fatih, a few that are masters. But when you get on a stage with 16 masters, you know, and so, but it's not just the musician's music by itself. It's that music mixed with the energy and the air of the Syrian audience. Dancing for a Syrian, to be able to go to a nightclub, you have to be fairly wealthy to afford to go to a nightclub like that. So, you know, it's like most of my were movie stars or you know, in the what do you call it, politicians. Hafez al-Assad's right hand men were, most of men, their wives were a lot of my audience. So high up there in the social ladder. So they've been to all the museums in Europe. They've seen the ballet. They know what art is, but Syrian music is the best for them. It's their heart. But they appreciate art. So to dance for them, when you can get a smile on their face or a clap out of them or something, is so rewarding. But I have to say, it's not just me, but it's them. What they give me as that audience, somehow they give me a kind of an energy or an expectation that I have to follow through on. And so it's the best place to perform for that audience, for those musicians, and the combination of how the musicians react to that audience and how the audience reacts to those musicians. And it's just so high spirited, lifting, you know, it's beautiful. Really, Syria, I mean, obviously it's had its problems as of late, but before I danced there before all that, obviously. But they really hold art very high. The union for the artists, musicians are often paid on par with doctors in Syria. So uh, Syrian music and is singers, dancers not so much. They're mostly important. Oh, a whole lot of stories with that one. So Syrian musicians, but the second most favorite musicians are my company musicians. And again, before the show, when we're doing sound check, when we're in the theater, when we're joking around, when we're in the dressing room. Oh my God, sometimes the dressing room, they did the best music. Never recorded nothing. Oh my goodness, because they're just improvising and they're playing, you know? And then Bassam does a mawal, and oh my goodness. I love my company musicians when we're alone in the theater and that it's an empty space. And it's just like me, lighting designer, stage manager, and these incredible musicians. Like what a treat. But I love it also on when we start doing the shows, the audiences come. And I just love I go and sit in the audience because I don't need to dance. I do one solo. So I often go sit in the audience to be with them. And I love to feel how they're reacting to it. And when we did the one that you were in, the Kulthum tribute, I could hear the people sobbing around me. Yeah. And into Omri, same thing, crying. Because we don't get to hear live, real Arab music very much in Canada, let alone in a situation, let alone in a theater where your whole imagination, you can't, you're taken into this world, right? There's no distractions, there's no waiters, there's no food, there's just you and the music hitting you right like that. Mm. And so hearing the Arabs around me sobbing because of the music, that was quite beautiful. That was quite rewarding.
It's a moment for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. So the last and final question. Are there any new personal projects or things that you're working on?
Well, as you know, now it's 10 months. I had two kinds of cancer and I had 3 surgeries. One of the surgeries caused a lot of nerve damage, which is why I'm not recuperating as fast as I could have. So I'm in a lot of rehabilitation type stuff. I taught my first private yesterday, and I'm not teaching just anybody. And I just in this room, by the way, is my new studio. It's small and it's intimate, just for privates. And there's a reason for that, and that is that I decide when you face something like cancer, uh, after 3 years of COVID, also just before that and during COVID, I came to terms with repressed memory of a lot of trauma that I didn't know about. Completely oblivious. In January 2020, just before COVID hit, the floodgates opened. I knew in 2015 something was wrong, and I started to how to scale down my life because I knew I needed to be in a quiet place because I knew I need to deal with this. Mm-hmm. Don't know what it is, but I need something's wrong. And so by January 2020, I was ready. I was like calm and everything. And then COVID hit, which was like a blessing because then I could do what normally would have taken 10 years of therapy in like 2 years, because that's all I did for 2 years during COVID is like, deal with it all. Anyway, that also spurred on me writing the book again. Everybody said, you got to write a book, your stories are so la la la. And yeah, I got some cool stories, but I thought, who really cares, you know? But when I found out about a whole third of my life was like, doesn't exist, then all the other parts of my life started to make sense. And then I thought, now that altogether is an interesting story. Just my experience dancing in the Middle East or just this, who cares? But when you have it with the backdrop of this trauma and you understand why I made certain choices, why I did certain things, then it becomes interesting. So then during COVID, I started to write and I got a lot done. And then COVID stopped, 2022 happened, and I got too busy and got off the book. But the cancer thing made me stay in bed for 8 months. So I started writing again. And now I have a lot. And now I'm ready to start getting not editors, but start figuring out what this book is about. Mm. So that's my number one project right now, is to finish the book. And also during COVID, I made 3 films, and I found out I really like making films much more than being in the theater because it's a medium that, I mean, in the theater, I have lighting design, costumes, music, dancers, choreography, space, three-dimensional. But in film, I have many more dimensions and any backdrop I want and any scene, you know. So I love making film and I don't feel the need to ever go back to the theater. For me now, the theater is too constricting. Constricting? Now, that sounds like a crazy thing to say. At 63 years old, I'm going to be a filmmaker. I know nothing about film, never been to film school. But pretty much everything I've done all along, I never really learned. I just figured it out along the way. I'm a person who's like, I learn by trial and error. So I make a lot of mistakes and really make some bad things, but then eventually I figure it out. Much better than, as my brother always tells me, he goes, RF, what is it? RTFM. Yeah, I never do that. I never read the fucking manuals. um, Now I not accidentally, but there's one film I've been wanting to make for a long, long time based on this story that I did in 1996 called The Son of Ishtar. And it's not, belly dance is not contemporary with something in between. But it tells this mythological story. And I've always thought I wanted to make a film out of it. And filmmakers actually came to me at the time and said, this needs to be a film. So I applied and applied for grants constantly, got no for like 10 years. So then I just gave up. And after COVID, I thought, you know what? I'm moving to Dubai. Because the prince or whoever he is, when he wants to do something like green energy, it's done. When he wants to give women's rights are much better there than they are in Canada. Not necessarily for the Emirati women, but for the country as a whole. Women are paid the same. There's more CEOs and high-level political women than there are in Canada. And Canada's pretty good. Mm. So when he went, and now his next project was the arts. I thought, well, maybe I can make my film in Dubai. So I went to Dubai to check it out because my friend Anita lives there. She's like, you gotta come, blah, 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 blah. So I was there for like 9 days. Day 3 or 4, I get an email from Canada Council for the Arts saying, you know that grant you applied for that we told you no 2 years ago? Well, we got some extra money now and we're giving it to you. And it was a lot. Wow. It was one of those ones that I thought, they're never going to give me that much money. Gave it all to me. It means I can make a film of quality, get the best DOP, get the best everything that I need. So then I thought, okay, well, I got to come back to Canada, make the movie, and then I'll move to Dubai and finish my book. But then I got cancer. So I've been writing the book more. Now I'm starting to I'm working with a composer right now. I'm starting to get the movie prepping, starting up. It's kind of exciting. And so book, movie, and the dance. The dance has been my whole world for 40 something years. Now it will only be 1/3, if maybe even smaller, of my world. I really want to be a filmmaker and write a book, and maybe the book might lead to more writing or speaking or something like that. The dance I wanted in my world will never leave. I listened to my first piece of Arabic music on Sunday afternoon after like 10 months. And I just was, I missed it so much. So I realized I can never live in a world without Arabic music. Mm-hmm. And then the private classes I was not intended to do for a long time, but this Arab girl, I don't know what made me, I wasn't thinking straight. She asked me and I said yes. And then, I don't know, the ether everybody started asking me. And well, if I said yes to her, I have to say yes to her. And then I thought, oh my God, all those people have been waiting. I better be honest and say I'm teaching private. And then the floodgates kind of open. So then I had to like, I'm only going to teach a certain amount. I'm only going to teach private to people I want to teach that inspire me. And I'm going to do Be the Muse and the thing that you were involved in, the Kulsum tribute. Because all of these things for me are creative. I'm either creating choreography for somebody, coaching them. I'm not teaching another hip kick, done. I taught enough hip kicks. There's plenty of other people out there who can do it. But if I can be teaching, but creating choreography, like in the project called Be the Muse, which I hope to do all over the place. Actually, I've already got contacts in the Far East and New Zealand and this kind of thing. So in 2024, I hope to start all that up again. So if I do one of those every month or every other month, that'll get my creative choreography juice. It will come my professional company. I will still do. I have to figure out what I'm going to do with Earth Shakers and Dream Company, particularly Earth Shakers, because they mean a lot. They're very special, and I can't not do them, you know. But I have to find a way that they don't take up. I have to find a way to farm out some of that work that they don't need just me for, you know. But Earth Shakers has to survive. Maybe Dream Company too, but anyway, so that's the thing. My dance now will be a smaller part of my world and only in the creative context. I don't want to be a teacher every Tuesday and Thursday night. I have to go teach a group of 12 girls. I love it. I love them and I'm going to miss them. And maybe I'll go and teach a workshop now and then, whatever. But every week, no, I want to spend my time doing other things. Now, having said that, I'm crazy to be doing this at 63. There is no way. Who makes money on a dance film? Like, there's no income from that. From the book, I don't know. I doubt it. I'm going to make money from it, Teaching creatively, yeah, maybe be the muse, maybe a little bit. I'll get some money. Well, hopefully that'll be my back. But this has been my struggle for the last year is that if I give up teaching regularly, how am I going to make money? How am I going to pay my rent? But once you have something like cancer, you start to think about priorities in your life and you start to, I'm just going to follow my joy, whatever it takes. Even if I'm a bag lady living in the street, I'm going to follow my joy and somehow the universe will come and rescue me, I hope. And within 48 hours of me making the decision that that's it, I'm going to be a writer and a filmmaker first and only do belly dancing within the context of creativity. Within 48 hours, I got a phone call from DTRC. I got all just out of the blue saying, you should do anyway. It's things happening that I can get financed to write my book and help with the movie and all these things. It's not like long term, but in the next short term year, I don't have to worry about paying my rent. I can start to do these activities and get them going. And hopefully somewhere along the line it will lead to some kind of money making things. I do have to retire at some point. Oh, I think I'll have.
Yeah.
I like being creative.
You're feeding your soul right now.
Pardon?
I said it's more important to feed your soul right now.
Yeah. Well, I can't retire because I don't have any money to retire on. I don't have any savings. I don't have anything like that. But I wouldn't want to retire because this is what keeps me alive. The air that I breathe, I can never stop being creative, whether it's making a movie or choreographing, writing a book or whatever.
I think that was everything, unless there's anything else that you'd like to share.
Al Qamar, the movie I made in 2021, it had 5 choreographies and it was 40 minutes altogether. But we're releasing next week or so, each choreography separately.
يا ليلي يا ليلي يا ليلي يا ليل يا ليلي يا عيني يا ليلي يا عيني يا
عشاقك يا حلوة كتير، الأول لابس كشمير. عشاقك يا حلوة كتير، الأول لابس كشمير، والتاني جلبية حرير، والتالت بعباية بوك.
يا نواعم يا بو يا نواعم يا بو
يا ناعمة يا غريبة، يا ناعمة يا غريبة،
يا نواعم يا بو يا نواعم يا بو
يا ناعمة يا غريبة، يا ناعمة يا غريبة.
I'm currently reincarnating. For rebirth. Even my whole apartment has been changed and painted different colors, and each room is a different room now. So I'm currently reincarnating, not exactly sure who I'll be when you release this video.
I love it. I think that's one thing I really like, just watching all of your progression and everything that you've done. Like, I feel like as a dancer, I don't have to be stuck in a certain box. Like, I don't just become this one thing and I have to be there forever. And I think that's one thing before I started learning from you, was that I was like, this is the box, this is what it is. And every time I've seen you change up your artistic visions, your creativeness, it's like, oh, I can jump out of this box. And I think that's really helpful for a lot of dancers. And I feel like for my generation of dancers, I was the Shakira era.
Oh, wow.
And so this is how you grew up, this is what you did, these were the workshops you go to, this is the box. And the box doesn't exist anymore. Like, I got a potato chip out of the bag, but I didn't get the whole chips. Like, I want the whole bag, but it doesn't exist anymore. So like, what do we do? How do we evolve? How do we create new things? How do we create venues? And how do we still honor what is there and what was there, but also still find authenticity to ourselves?
Yeah, listening to your own voice is
Mhm.
paramount for everything. And if your voice wants to do something and you're like, it looks logically like it's not possible, I don't know, give it a try, it might work. Like most of the things I've done, everybody said no, it will open a belly dance school. I did a little business course for a month, and everyone around, my family, my friends, where you can open a belly dance school, it work. About who ever heard of a school teaching belly dancing? That never worked. And then of course it was huge, what, 400 students a week at one point. And then Descent of Ishtar. The Arabs are not going to like it. It's not contemporary dance. No one's going to like it. We toured it 36 times, but rave reviews everywhere. Me, I'm 63. I'm going to be a movie maker and write a book. May work, maybe not. But sometimes you just do it anyway, and you sometimes get surprised. But if you keep listening to all the naysayers, then you don't move. You stay in the box, and you get very sad.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, the trauma that you'll read about in my book is horrible. Like you wouldn't put on your worst enemy. And it's 10 years, and it involves rape, it involves a lot of even worse things than that. But look at me, I'm smiling. I'm generally a happy person because maybe because of trauma, maybe the creative spirit to always grow, look for the bright side, bring love and happiness into the world. Uh, it can sustain you through a lot. You know, and then it can create things too. I love recently I saw this saying for Rumi. It says, "Walk on the way, and the way will appear."
I like it.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. So get out of that box, start walking.
We'll do so.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for all your insight. And I also thank you for everything that you've contributed to the dance scene, because you have made so many leaps and bounds and strides and opened up so many opportunities for us dancers that
Thank you.
I don't, like it can't even comprehend like dancers getting grants, dancers getting on stage. Like you were kind of what's the word? You created the path for many more of us.
Thank you. This PR person I talked to recently, she says I'm a disruptor. Apparently that's the label they give people like me nowadays.
I like it, disruptor.
I like it too. I'm like, that is so cool. I'm now putting that on my resume, disruptor.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for interviewing me, and I wish you all the well on your project, because I really love the idea of your project, and I can't wait to see it all and hear it all. And it's a really, really good project. I really admire you for doing that.
Thank you. All right.
Okay, bye.
عندي أغلى قلبي الحنون
حبايب النبي
قلبي بالعفران ليلي يا ليلي
غيبة